Well, hello, Young and the Restless Daily Recap fan. Today's daily recap is from Wednesday, October the 23rd, 2024, through Friday, October the 25th, 2024. Not too much movement, not too much action. We have Jack and Diane, who I am 100% convinced that they have planned this, they have staged this whole them breaking up, Jack calling her a gold digger scenario. They're trying to throw Victor off and shock their son into realizing the error of his ways. I'm convinced of it, right? Kyle Tracy walks in on it, and she said, sees Diane with the suitcase, and she goes, "Oh, I didn't know you and Jack were going out of town." And Diane's like, "Because we're not. Jack told me he wanted me to move out last night. He threw me out of the house." And Tracy's like, "Wait, what?" And she says, "Yeah." He says that I'm a gold digger. She's the whole little line that they're saying. And Tracy's like, he didn't mean that." And Diana's like, yes, he did. And she goes, "No, something is terribly off here." And Jack comes down out from that side room where Dina used to be. And he goes, "You're still here?" And Tracy's looking like, what alternate universe am I in? She goes, "Jack, Diane says you asked her to leave the house." "I did." "No, Jack, uh, something's wrong. I mean, surely whatever's going on, you two can talk about it. You can, really get past this because you love each other." And he goes, "Tracy, you know what? I know what you're doing. You always want to make things right, but you need to stay out of this because there is no making this right." She goes, I was your witness when you both got married. It is my job to see if we can settle, get back on the right track." So anyway, she's like really shocked, and Jack and Diane kind of mediocre go at it again. And she goes, "I'm out of here." Oh, and he tells her in front of Tracy, "Oh, and you know what, Diane? You're fired. That C-suite office that you coveted so much is no longer yours." And Tracy's like, "No, no, Jack, you, what?" you know, and I'm like, "Girl, you can't smell this setup, right?" So Diane leaves. She checks into the GCAC, and Tracy's trying to talk some sense into Jack. And then Kyle comes down and he goes, what's going on?" "Jack's asked your mother to leave. No, something is terribly wrong." And, whatever he's going on and on, Kyle's like, "Wait, what?" So he's talking to Jack. What brought this on? He goes, do you even care?" And he goes, "Well, you know what? You're right. I don't care. Forget I asked." He said, "Well, it's like this. It does all revolve around you." And Kyle looked, he goes, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, your mother, I finally see the light about Diane and the things that, for her own ambition that she did to you. I can no longer, just stand by silently." And I'm kind of going into Thursday and Friday. I'm going to wrap up that whole farce of a reality with Diane and Jack. He says, "It was unforgivable enough that your mother walked out on you when you were a child. But I genuinely wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. And now I see, pretty much her whole goal was just to get back in this house, get in Jabot, climb the ladder any way she could, even with, you know, firing you from the company business." And he says, and Kyle says, "Well, yeah, that's what I've been trying to tell you." He said, "So, no, I fired her from Jabot." And Kyle said, "Wait, what?" Yeah. And it's over between your mother and I. And Kyle says, are you okay? He says, Kyle, it almost sounds like you care. He said, here's the kicker. Your mother wants me wants us to get to the bottom of you stealing from Jabot, and your mother wants you prosecuted. And Kyle just looked. He goes, but I could never do that to my son. Even though what you did, Kyle, is just irreprehensible. Kyle looked at him and says, he goes, stealing Jabot property, corporate theft that you did, irreprehensible. But I will not have you prosecuted for it. You're my son. And so Kyle says, but I didn't steal that. And Jack says, you know what? No, 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 no. We're not even going to argue that point. We're not, because you know what you did. But there's only so far I'm going to go. And Jack gets up and he walks away. And Kyle is like, um, because Kyle made mention to Jack, Jabot will be fine. Jabot will, they will bounce back. Oh, so you really minimizing your theft. They hadn't had a brand new launch in 10 years, even though it's been less than 10 years. But anyway, it's fine. You'll be okay. I mean, come on. Jack and Diane, to me, don't even need to be wasting their energy trying to do this plan to get Kyle to confess, to get him to see the errors of his ways, to get him to what? Turn on Victor. Come on now. So Diane, the next day, and then Kyle goes to GCAC to talk to her and say, so is it true? You and dad are broke up? Diane's like, you know what, Kyle, what is it? Either we talk to each other or we ignore each other. And Kyle says, well, you know what, you're right. And Diane just looked at him. She said, but you know what? You got your wish. And Kyle's like, it was never my wish for you and dad to break up. Diane says, you got your wish. Okay. Yeah. And I hope it was worth it. And she pretty much dismisses him. And she says, but you know what, Kyle? Contrary to your belief, popular belief, I love you. You're my son. And I wanted to connect. I wanted us to have a relationship. But I see you've made that impossible. She's sipping on her martini. And he feels bad and he leaves and he kind of cries on Claire's shoulders. I never seen my parents acting out. You put this into motion. I don't even want to, I fast forward because it's not even worth it. This is ridiculously stupid. How long does it take him to find a house? Kyle Abbott has been living rent free forever. When they moved to Milan, he was still working for Jabot. Summer was probably paying for that apartment, or the company was. He has enough to pay cash for a house. He has no living expenses. He doesn't buy groceries, food, nothing. So, how hard is it for this man to have found a house and moved his behind out of this house? Or Jack should have put him in the pool house. It's big enough, it's been remodeled. So anyway, that's that. And then we have, let's see, oh, Sharon, remember Nick? She was gonna, I just can't live like this anymore. I'm a horrible person, Nick. And he's like, Sharon, but no, Sharon, you've just been through a lot, but you're getting better. And she goes, no, there's something I have to tell you. There's something you don't know. Wait, Sharon, before you say anything, I know how far you've come. See, who does that? We just left Phyllis who feels Sharon has done something nefarious, right? You then go to Sharon, you see she's distraught, saying, I'm a horrible person. I have to tell you something because I can't keep living like this. And what comes out of your mouth is, no, no, before you say anything, no, no, don't say anything. Listen. And then you just tell her what a great person she is. And you know what? No, no, I'm going to go make you some of your favorite tea that will calm you down. Sounds to me like you don't want to know. Sounds to me like you know she was going to confess and you didn't want her to. That's what that sounds like to me. So he goes and he makes her tea. He brings it back. And she, and in her mind says, get it together, Sharon, get it together. I'm surprised Cameron didn't pop in, but he didn't. And she drinks her tea and he says some more things, good things about her. And she goes, I just got to get out of here. I got to get some air. And she jumps up and runs out. So Nick goes after her and they're talking and same old crap. And she goes, no, I just kind of got overwhelmed because Daniel stopped by. I knew she was going to turn that on Daniel. Daniel stopped by and he was accusing me of doing something to Heather. And Nick looked, Daniel was here? And she goes, yes. And he goes, stands the reason he would say that. And she goes, why? He goes, because Phyllis believed that you did something to Heather. And she goes, wait, Phyllis, what? Why would Phyllis believe that I did something to Heather? Well, because of the way you've been acting towards Heather and Daniel and Lucy for the last couple of months. And Phyllis feels that, you did something. And she goes, and what did you say? He says, I told her you would never do anything like that. That absolutely, you couldn't kill someone and then get rid of the body. Nick says, I've done a lot of things, but even I couldn't do that. And I'm like, yeah, you could, son of a gun. Does the name Ashton Locke ring a bell to you? The same way, allegedly, Sharon killed Heather, you killed Ashlyn. It was an accident. And what did you do? You go running outside with Victoria, even though you did not move the body. You guys come back in and that body is gone. It's because your daddy came, had his men move that body, right? But then you guys know what Victor did. Still kept quiet about it, right? Kept nice and quiet. Chance too. So my thing is, no, don't rule nothing out, Nick, because you know what happened to you a year ago, a little more than a year ago now. But we're all supposed to have forgotten that, right? We're supposed to have forgotten that. So anyway, Sharon is like, but what evidence does Phyllis feel is out there against me? Has the police found anything? What have they found? He goes, I don't know. See, Sharon still doesn't know they've actually got the phone and got the bloody towels, right? She's fishing. She keeps wanting to know, what did the police find? She goes, well, it must be something pretty damning for them to think Daniel did it. And Nick says, well, just like I know you didn't do it, I know Daniel did not kill Heather. He loved her. And Sharon looked, well, yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, see, you realize you can't spin it in Daniel's direction too much with Nick like you could Chance and other people, right? And so then he talks about, he goes, because one thing, Sharon, you never even told me that you saw Heather the night she died. Phyllis told you that? Yeah, she did. Well, that's because, oh, then she explained, I was worried about, I didn't want to add to, yeah, it didn't make sense. But Nick is like, yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. No, it doesn't. Didn't make an ounce of sense. So anyway, she of course didn't tell Nick. And he goes, "Oh, by the way, earlier you said there was something that you had to tell me. There's something I should know. What was it?" Oh, no, no, it really wasn't. She came up with some, you know, whatever. And Nick's like, "Oh, okay." And I just shook my head and I'm like, "See, this is why I don't like watching this show. It's ridiculous." So let's switch back to Diane. She sees Nikki and Victor. They come to the GCAC to have breakfast. Now, mind you, what I don't understand is they have a private chef. You mean the private chef doesn't have breakfast ready for them in the morning? What is up with that? They eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner out. They don't need a cook staff. They really don't. But now, isn't it funny when he was keeping Jordan down in that basement? The cook was sure cooking dinners, right? Uh-huh. So Diane gets walks over to him and said, "I just want you to know because I know you will want to hear this." And Nikki says, "There is nothing you could say to us that we would want to hear." She goes, "We planned on having a good morning, but I see that's out the window, you know." And Diane said, "Especially you, Nikki." And Nikki's like, "Well, okay, I'll buy what? What? Jack and I are through. I moved out last night and I'm staying here." And Nikki's like, "What?" And Victor's like, "What makes you think that that's important to us?" She says, "Because I know it's important to you. You have this never ending grudge against Jack." And she says, "And I have been fairly, I mean, just completely mistreated." And Nikki's like, "I doubt that." She goes, "Jack says that I'm a gold digger and I was only after, power and his money and blah, blah, blah." And Nikki says, "That sounds about right." Diane says, "That's not right at all. That's not what was happening." And then with the betrayal of our son, Jack refuses to see the truth. And so Nikki says, "Wait, what?" She goes, "Yeah, Jack, the betrayal of Kyle, uh, Jack wants to look the other way. And I don't believe in it. See, Kyle stole from the company." And Nikki's like, "So what you're saying to me?" No, Victor goes, "So you're saying you want to punish your own son?" And Nikki says, "How reprehensible is that?" She goes, "Victor, I have seen you punish your kids throughout the years for less. You should appreciate that." And so she goes, "But one thing I do know is you love to get one up on Jack. And I want you to know that I'm staying right upstairs. And if you want some ammunition against Jack, you come see me." And Victor's like, kind of ammunition?" And Nikki's looking at him and she goes, "Oh, no, no. Just know that I have some and know where you could find me." And she turns and she walks, you know, out of the dining room. And Nikki's like, she's looking at him, and Victor's like, "What?" She goes, "Why is it seemed like you were considering Diane's offer? I was just listening to what the woman had to say." She goes, "No, you seemed intrigued." And he goes, I had no such thing. I was just listening to her. She's just looking at him like, you better not be going. 'Cause you know how Nikki is with her Jack. You better not be going after Jack. So Diane is pretty pleased with herself. She walks away. And I'm like, they can't tell. See, Victor's normally what, 10 steps ahead of everybody. He still knows something is up. Why would Diane tell them? But his whole want to get revenge, that's what he wants. He wants Jack's family to be ripped away from him. So in his mind, he's just sitting back thinking, okay, my plan is working. Well, it ain't working, Victor. It's not working at all. Phyllis comes running and whining into Billy's office. And Billy's like, Phyllis, what are you doing here? I just had to come in here to get my mind off of everything. He goes, but Phyllis, you're not working here. Billy, I told you, I'm working in the shadows. I'm going to get things done for you. You need someone. He goes, you know what? No, 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 no. Stop right there. I can't afford having you here. And she goes, what do you mean? I can't afford to hear about what's going on with your family. Not that I don't care, but I can't afford to hear about it here. I can't afford to hear about you want me to hire your son. I can't afford about none of that, Phyllis. You're fired. You don't work here. My main purpose and my main goal is getting my mother to see what a good job I am at running this company. You cannot be a distraction to me, nor can you be the reason she snatches everything away from me. So I care about you. And she goes, and I'm hoping things work out for Daniel. And she's like, somebody's framing my son. And she goes, well, he goes, wait, what? What do you mean framing your son? Daniel's the number one suspect in Heather's murder. And Billy's like, how could that be? She goes, I'll tell you how it could be. Sharon is framing him. Sharon is the one that killed Heather, and she's framing Daniel. And Billy is like, wait, Sharon Newman? Oh no. Mm-mm. Phyllis, you're reaching at straws. See, you're throwing out accusations. You have no proof. And Sharon wouldn't do anything like that. Yes, she would. Oh, Phyllis is just, see the theatrics, what Billy is saying he can't be distracted with. Yes, she would. Oh, she's going on and on and on and on. So, anyway, he pretty much tells her, see, before you go throwing out baseless accusations, Phyllis, you would have to get proof. Seriously. So she calls Daniel and says, make sure Lucy doesn't leave before I say goodbye. Because, you know, Lucy, he's putting her on a plane. Christine arrived. She arrived lickety split. And she has the jet waiting to take Lucy back to Danny. And Daniel had just told Lucy that she was going. And Lucy's like, no, I'm not. That's your plan. That ain't mine. And Summer walked in, and initially Summer says, well, I'm with Lucy. I don't feel she should be sent away. And he looked at her, well, thanks. And so he says, no, things are going to get uglier before they get better. And I need to know you're safe. The actual person that hurt your mother is still out there, Lucy. And at this point, Christine walks up. He goes, Christine, you're here. I didn't think you would get here till tomorrow. She goes, no, as soon as you got off the phone with Danny, he called me. He ordered the jet to get ready, and I came right away. So she goes, and I agree with you, Daniel. Lucy should go and be with Danny. And Lucy says, what? She goes, no, I have a job to do, and that's defending your father. We need to know you're safe and cared for. And she goes storming out. And Summer's like, should I go after her? And Daniel's like, oh, and help like you helped me a minute ago. She goes, well, I'm sorry. It wasn't until, all this was brought out. I didn't mean to make things worse. So Summer goes out and she finds Lucy and she's talking to Lucy. And Christine is talking to Daniel, and she goes, "Look, I called a friend of mine in the DA's office or the police department. I think she may have said the police department detective, and no, the evidence is pretty damning. This is not going to be easy, Daniel." And I'm thinking, no, that evidence ain't pretty damning at all. Daniel has an alibi. An alibi. Oh my God. He can't be in two places at once. Even if they track the text messages that was sent to Daniel from that phone, time stamping, it's not Daniel. Chance was even with him, showing him a text. Oh my God. I'm ridiculous. So she says, now I need you to tell me what happened from start to finish. So when Summer's talking to Lucy, she does convince her that your father, from what it seems, has a fight ahead of him. And he would be so distracted, wondering how you're doing, wondering how you're holding up, wondering what you've seen and heard right here. And he can't be there for you. He wouldn't be able to effectively fight as hard for himself, Lucy. He needs to know you're safe. And she's like, I didn't think about it like that. Okay, I'll go. I'll go. So Daniel bought a little friendship bracelet kit because remember she made him that friendship bracelet a year ago. And they made one for her. He made one for her, and then they made one that represent Heather and honoring Heather. So anyway, she's gonna be leaving, and she was downstairs saying goodbye. And Phyllis came through the turnstile right before she was headed out, and she got to hug her grandmother. I don't know who was taking her to the airport. Or maybe Summer was waiting in the car. Maybe, I guess, right? And so she leaves. Her father didn't take her to the airport. Um, Daniel, he's talking to Phyllis. Chance comes in. Daniel Romalotti, you're under the arrest for Heather Romalotti. Is she still Romalotti? I think she's Heather Romalotti, right? And Phyllis is like, what? 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 So they're coming to arrest Daniel. But the thing is that since it's moving like this, hopefully this crap is over by the end of the month. This is November sweeps. They're going to try to, I think they will wrap this up within November sweeps. They would have to. I don't know how much more I could take of this show. But anyway, that is it. Let's go to Comment Corner. Comment Corner. And let's see, we have them start from the top to the bottom. There's only 6 comments. Claire says that had to be an amateur who killed Heather to leave the murder weapon behind. If Lucy did it, I think it was an accident. She freaked out and left once she saw all the blood and to make Sharon think she did it. I hope they don't drag the storyline through the holidays. I'm getting sick of it. I have been sick of it, Claire. They should have brought Paul in on this storyline since it is his daughter that was murdered. I know this whole heart attack thing and he can't travel. Come on now. And then Kelly did a bunch of emoji faces. And then Lynn says, hi, Lynn. And then Denzel says, now that I'm thinking on it, that last week episode of Young and the Restless, now the way Lucy was looking and listening to Sharon, thinking that Sharon was the one that killed Heather, telling me now that she didn't. I think it was Lucy that killed Heather because she was upset at both her parents and they grounded her for what happened when she was drinking and Faith was driving in that whole car accident with Faith. That's my conspiracy. Now for Daniel and Sharon's scenes, Sharon is getting ready to come out and tell Daniel that she was the one who pushed and killed Heather till Daniel left and Cameron came back into her head, uh, in Sharon's mind, as well as she wanted to come clean with Nick and tell the truth. I understand Phyllis is upset that her son Daniel is getting framed, but all that yelling, making a scene won't fix or solve anything. Um, do I think, do I still think that Sharon killed Heather? Yes, but now I'm second guessing that it was Lucy or still her birth mother that didn't, that did it. Yeah, Phyllis ain't had to make sense and yell at Nick like yell at Nick like that. Great daily recap, as always. One thing about Phyllis is not putting her getting to the bottom of it brain on. She's not going through the internet. She's not hacking into Heather's phone. She's not doing timestamps herself, even though the location setting was turned off on the phone. Daniel got back into the phone. It didn't say he turned it back on, but I'm sure by him resetting the password and everything, even though technically that doesn't turn location settings back on. However, Phyllis isn't doing anything with her cyber skills to help with this. And Lorenzo says, weren't Heather and Sharon sister-in-law when she was married to Paul and Nikki's son Dylan? And then Claire says, I'm not sure if Dylan and Sharon were ever married. They weren't. But if they were, she would have been Heather's sister-in-law. I guess the writers forgot. We remember the past between these characters, LOL. Well, look, Nikki act like she ain't never had a son. Isn't that funny? How just because he's in witness protection doesn't mean that you don't have another son. Doesn't mean that at all. But, we know how soaps are. So that's it, everybody. Let's see what happens next week. I really believe since next week is the last week of October, things are going to drag on very, very slow next week and then pick up again in November. So we shall see. But I'll probably be back on Wednesday or Thursday with another daily recap of The Young and the Restless.